Hey Keith, how you doing, brother? Getting ready to get in the picture here. Oh, kind of getting in a new spot tonight. Didn't want to. It's been a rough week, but I wanted to get something prepared here because I think that the subject at hand gets mentioned quite a bit, but at the same time, really nobody really dives really deep into it, and it's very opinionated type of thing. Nostalgia is kind of a the more and more I've been thinking about it for a very long time now and stuff like that. And it's a and it's a perception too. There's a form of perception of it, and I'm trying to be very objective here. I'm not going to be really over advertising any certain line or really downplaying any other line, but at the same time, I'm trying to bring attention to the fact of that we're talking about, things that, we, because, how many of us have sat and watched, went back and watched the old 80s TV show that we just loved. And when we go back and watch it, it's like, it's kind of, didn't really have the same effect that what it did back in the 80s. But now there's a few shows like MacGyver, for instance, is one of those, I think is one of those timeless shows that is just such well written and such good material, such great actors were involved that it really don't matter what you know. It's the whole invention with the technology, with the cell phones and everything, that everybody wants to call something dated and everything like that. And I just think, well, everything in due time will be dated. So, Dak, 75, I hadn't seen you in a very long time, brother. Oh yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, it's and like I said, I'm not being, and I'm also trying to look at this from an artistic point of view, because as an artist and a toy designer and stuff like that, I always got to look at, well, this is a better design than that. I don't see, and here I'm gonna kind of throw something out there really quick. You take the kids that grew up in the 88 through the early 90s, they just go nuts over the classic Ninja Turtles. And don't get me wrong, I love the first run of Turtles. And but here's the weird. But see, I grew up with the He-Man style. So I'm looking at this, there's some similarities here with that squat, bulky kind of stature and stuff. But I'm always going to lean toward that this was the better toy. Not necessarily maybe the better idea, but as far as a toy playing with it, I would lean toward this. Am I looking at this from a nostalgia point of view, or am I looking at this from a design aspect, or a artistic license versus this? I mean, this seems to be more based on funny, having a good time, laughing, excitement. Where He-Man based toys were more action, adventure, sci-fi stuff. Is a little slightly more. The toys had a slightly more serious tone versus the Filmation version of the cartoon, and even the Filmation cartoon tried to be have some serious storylines, but at the same time, Filmation had to dumb it up for kids, so to speak. See. Yes, but yeah, like I said, I love the Faker. When I first, I didn't have him as a child, but my neighbor had him. So, and I always like, my first, because like I said, I was an artist ever since I was real little. How can this be a Faker? He's got blue skin, orange hair. How in the world can anybody not tell that this is not the real He-Man? I was a very practical minded child versus everybody else looked at, oh, he's cool. Later on, it took many years later, I finally grew in appreciation of the design aspect, and it was more tried to be done in a way to where it was, like the opposites attract kind of thing, and stuff like that. They played off the color wheel a lot. He-Man was greatly known off playing off the color wheel. But at the same time, I have a huge fond love. You see the big brontosaurus here. I have there's so many fond memories of playing with these very simple, and look, there's no mean faces on it. I know this is a herbivore and stuff like that. There's no articulation, but it's a very good, strong, classic sculpt we have here. And I tell you what, I still admire these. Every time I find an older toy like this, I try to pick it up. I mean, there's just something about this. Versus now, if you bring in the Jurassic Park version of these toys, they all their legs can move, and they normally have a button on them that makes the sounds and everything. You know, but I still, I have a drawing to this because this is the type of toys I played with as a young. This was like pre-action figure days, and my first action figures, most of y'all probably knew this, was the Planet of the Apes and the Batman and Robin series. I'm working on a Batman. I have the head, but that's as far as I got so far. But these were my first introductions to action figures. And, there for years, I kind of, out of sight, out of mind, didn't get to be around them. You don't see Planet of the Apes. You don't see Migos around here unless you go to some kind of, convention or toy show. And usually these guys are, you guys seen the booths where they got the big glass cases and you can't touch them, but you can look at them through the glass. That's where you usually find these guys and stuff. So it's, but I have such a fond memory. And when I just started getting back into, I'm actually designing toys like this now. And now I'm getting back into collecting. When I first got my first Planet of the Ape soldier again, man, did the threshold of memories, being two or 3 years old, playing in the living room. I remember playing with one of these guys. We had the Christmas tree up, and before we even decorated, I was up in that tree because, on the TV show, they had the tree hut and everything. Well, he was up in the tree playing and everything. So, I mean, I just had an amazing, great time. And then, as everyone knows, we had Star Wars come out, and then a whole new scale, but which opened up a whole more new opportunities of play with the beast and the vehicles and the smaller play sets. It offered more variety versus these guys was extremely, their tree hut, even back in those days for this 8-inch scale, was hard to acquire. I never had the tree hut. But yet at the same time, when I show my grandkids these toys, they looking at them as, wow, that's such a simple toy. But honestly, from a design point, again, you take a good look at these and you look at your modern day Black series. Where do you think that the idea of the modern day Black series comes from? And I'm telling you, these guys right here and your 12-inch G.I. Joe truly was the innovation. And the reason they went to this innovation on articulation and stuff like that, and be able to have the accessory options and changing things up. And the reason they went from this, and which was very smart, because the 12-inch scale, with the rise of oil prices back in the day, which was pathetic to what they are now, is the reason why those 12-inch scale figures started getting a little pricey. And so dropping down to this 8-inch scale really made a big game changer and really opened the door for Marty Abrams to really capitalize on so many different characters rolling in. He really jumped on that. Let's see here, we've got some people. Hey, Matt. Yeah, me and Matt had a good talk about some of this today and everything. See, the Imperial Dinosaurs and Monsters were great. It's hard to beat these classics, and they're simple. They're not, they're not have some gimmicky. I never was on action gimmicks. I never did like that kind of stuff. Yeah, Mego in the 70s was amazing. And versus and here's what I was kind of going with this, because like I said, even though I was not into toys when the original Turtle line came out, I do have a fondness for this. I have a high regard and respect for the design and the storytelling option, and it coming from an indie comic book background, which I am from, I have just a good high respect for this action figure. But with that said, it didn't take but a few years before they started coming out with this. Sorry, I mean, a turtle wearing an Indian costume. I don't know what else to say about that. So, and even as cool as this guy looks, and I can't even remember I don't even know what this figure was. I don't remember seeing it in the cartoons, which I'm not a huge, I don't know a lot. My turtle knowledge is very, very thin. I do kind of see a cool design aspect here, but at the same time, a robotic turtle. You see what I'm saying? It's just, this to me seems more creative than this seems gimmick, 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 gimmick. And all this started taking place in the late 80s. And a good example here, I got an 82, no, 83 and an 84, Bareness and Scrap Iron. I got them close in here. Very militaristic, very dark tone characters, very solid. These guys look and feel military, even though with the color schemes, it's an obvious that these are bad guy characters with the dark navy blues and the reds. You know, we all know that when it comes to the good guys, it's always browns and greens. And I even like the Baroness. You know, you just have, you know, that just screams she's the boss and she's going to kill you. I mean, just assassin all over this and stuff like that. But very simplistic in design, even though it is pushing the envelope. But she looks a lot like, you look at the Marvel characters of the day. I mean, Black Widow. Hello, costume's not much different. I mean, so I get what people, but and then it goes all the way up to 1986. To me, was the GI Joe's last good year, and here's where I'm going to prove that, because GI Joe, and I didn't pull them all out, but they had like Dial Tone and several other characters, and I can see Hawk, yeah, the General Hawk here, very solid military looking character, simple in design, screaming military. Hardcore grunt, ready to rock and roll. I mean, great design, good solid character. The very next year, now I apologize, most of my really good GI Joes, I got them all, put them up because I got very limited space. So I'm gonna try to hold this character together the best I can, because it's one that's going to redo, but I'm still waiting on O-rings. And y'all, if any of y'all ever ordered O-rings, you all know my pain. It takes them forever sometimes to come in. You got the boxer Big Boa. Now, what in the heck does this guy got to do with G.I. Joe? He's a boxer, but he's named after a snake. And I don't know. Is it kind of cool? I can see some coolness about it a little bit, but at the same time, there's something about it that just doesn't fit. Now, if you was someone a little bit younger than me, who the 87 to 90 era of G.I. Joe, this is probably one of your top figures. And that's where we're at here with the whole nostalgia thing. And the power of it. Is it just what makes a great toy is what you was dumped with at the time? I hate to say it like that, but you know, we all have what came out at certain times. And like I said, my era was definitely the Planet of the Apes, and a lot of people don't like the Planet of the Apes, but still to this day, I mean, just last weekend I watched the original movie and the TV show. So, and you know, you got the Clash of the Titans here. Not everybody is and most of the people nowadays that talk and reference about this movie here, it's the one that was done just what, about 10 years ago, 2011, 2010, something like that. They reference it, and I'm here to tell you, it just that is not, that's not my go-to. If I want to watch Clash of Titans, I go to the original one. Now, I will have to say that some of the CGI work in that movie was good. I thought the Medusa was a definitely good upgrade. The Kraken, not so much. I like the original Kraken the best. So, but that's where we're at here. Is it our fondness to what we were presented with as a child? Does it have so much power that we can completely overlook just bad design over this is what we remember as a kid and it made us happy at the moment? Does it? So guys, what are you guys? Let me see what you guys are chiming in. Let's see here. Kind of like the Rocky Balboa, I know, and it really fell through. I mean, it just, and then having him on the kind of the bad guy side, it just didn't. I just don't think it worked. He looks more like a Mad Max character. To me, he changed the colors a little bit, and he could probably fall more in that line as a Dreadnought character. And it's just a, he's just slightly changed there, and the change the name would definitely help as well. See, see. Yeah, the red and black was definitely the Nazi feel, and I think that, see, and she had the whole, her and Destro had the whole German feel going on, and that just linked straight to the Nazis and what all we knew about in school that we read about it and stuff like that. And then you take the classic Shredder. Like I said, this is not my line of toys. I wasn't into toys at that time, but I have to admit, this is a cool classic little design. I mean, from an artist standpoint, it's simple. It screams ninja, oriental, samurai. I mean, it does. There's just so many. There's no doubt that this, there's definitely oriental vibes here. Versus, even this has that oriental karate kind of vibe. The Karate Kid was hot during this time and everything. The karate and ninja face. Oh my! But then you turn around and then you take this. This just, to me, just screams gimmick and hokey. I mean, there's just nothing about this that just, I don't know. It is just not good. I mean, I just don't know what else to say about it. Versus now, when you take some of the Ralph McQuarrie stuff, just from a creative sci-fi feel, it's really that, and it's very simplistic. I mean, there's nothing really overdone here. There's nothing. There's no gimmick here other than him sitting inside the body there, but that was just to make it to where they didn't have to change the figure design. Then that would raise the price point up and stuff. See here. I love the steel monsters rather than the underrated. Yes, I get that. See, do you remember the toy, the Steel Line monsters? Mad Max toy, the Mad Max toy line. I remember the Mad Max more than I do the Steel. The Mad Max, I think you're talking about the ones, they were still kind of like the He-Man figures, more the 5.8. And I think they was just I think they was more the 6-inch scale, if I'm not, or somewhere in between the 5. They was really close to that. They're very oddball scale there. But what we're getting back here once again, is it, when we're, as a kid, does that power keep to today? Because like I said, I remember playing with these figures right here. This is very exact same one. See, I would have been 3 years old. So this is roughly 44 years ago. So you would think, after all the toys that I have seen, all the things that I have designed, painted, I've seen the digital, the whole gamut come through, and all the goodness and the badness of it. But yet here I am holding this very kind of simplistic toy, but at the same time, a very creative thought process that went into this man versus ape. And this, screamed back in those days too. Evolution, when I was a little small kid, was a huge topic. It's not a topic anymore at all with the new kids, but it was a very heated subject in my school, because where I grew up was a very heavy Baptist area, and boy, you didn't talk about evolution. That was a no-no. So this right here was, this toy just kind of like represent all that heresy all at the same time. But I'm sitting here from versus 3-year-old playing with this to now 47 years old, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm here to tell you, there is just something about this piece that still just, I'm extremely fascinated about it. I'm looking at this and all these, not only the memories of playing with it, but remember watching the movie as a kid. Remember just being totally enthralled, and how it has just really shaped my creativity even now, all these years later. So, what I am curious, you guys who grew up in this era, the Ninja Turtle era, and then whatever else, I don't even know all that came out in the early 90s. Does those toys still speak to you in the same way? So if you guys, I think Matt, you're about a good 10 years younger than me, and I don't know how old the rest of you guys are. What was your child? Was it Turtles? Do they still speak to you? Do any toy line that predates them speak to you in any way? I mean, or does it stop with the initial coup de grace moment of your first action figure? Does it keep you from going farther back? Let's see here. Keith's 42, so you're pretty close to my age. So you would be, I would say you probably do still remember the Ninja Turtle, because I got out of toys roughly 86 was like my final year, and it was just I think it might have crept into 87, but I think it just was like pretty well gone at that point. So that was definitely out of it pre the first Turtles coming. But I remember them coming out. Of course, my neighbor was like 3 or 4 years younger than me, so I remember him coming over and playing with my younger brother. They played with these toys, but I didn't. So let's see here. Alpha Tron, how you doing, brother? 43. See, wasn't interested in turtles. So you're Keith. Was you into the turtles back in those days? So what other? I'm trying to remember. Like I said, I was totally out of the whole scene. I think that's also about the time the New Adventures of He-Man came about and stuff like that, which I don't think that was very well received. If you was a fan of this, it was such a drastic change from what we knew. Even though I do have, I said, I remember watching the cartoon, didn't buy any of the toys back in those days. So there's no nostalgicness there. I have a greater appreciation for it now than what I had then. But still, bottom line, story, look, nostalgia, everything A to Z, these was the top of the line, bottom line. I mean, the New Adventures just don't hold the cake on it. It's very sloppily done, I have to say. See here, see, love the Transformers, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, He-Man, and now see, Mask I didn't ever get into. Now I'm glad you said Transformers, Alpha, because I remember the Transformers cartoon. I think I only had like 1 or 2 Transformers. My brother and, like I said, the neighbor that was the same age as my brother, they were heavy into the Transformer toys, and I just never got into them. I honestly thought at that time, I just thought they looked over complicated, and they just really didn't look like what they did in the cartoon. There was a huge difference there versus the He-Man toys were pretty close, even though there was obviously difference because of the drawing aspect. But I think the Transformers cartoon definitely versus the toy was a much different. They didn't reference the toys hardly any at all. So Jason Mathis, thank you, brother. Thank you for joining me this evening, guys. This is Jason. I done a little video a little over a week ago. Jason came up to me, a few months ago, and brought me this box, and it had his dad's vintage 12-inch scale G.I. Joes in it. And man, I tell you, just hold on, guys. For you guys who probably missed that little shot, let me see if I can grab these and not make a hot mess. I pulled a Houdini and didn't make a mess. Imagine that. See, Jason, I keep it close to me, brother. Keep it right where I keep my eyes on it. And guys, and like I said, even though this era was slightly before my time, man, just look at the goodies inside that bag. The detail that these guys put in. And if y'all don't know the history of the 12-inch scale G.I. Joe, definitely go to Netflix, The Toys That Made Us. One of the greatest specials I've ever seen on He-Man and G.I. Joe. Just so detailed, and just how these things came about. I want to pull this guy out of here. Check this out, guys. Like I said, even though this is pre my era, and I'll tell you why, a quick story, why I have such a fondness for these 12-inch scale G.I. Joes. Like I said, I was more into the Migos size was my first one. Then I moved quickly into the Star Wars. We know how they changed the world. But I had an older cousin. He was probably 8 to 10 years older than me. And when I didn't always live here in Georgia. I used to live up in Tennessee, but I always came here to Dalton and down in Calhoun to visit family. Well, him and his family, his older brother, and they all lived down here in Calhoun. Well, he had like 2 or 3 of the OGI Joes with the flocked hair and the flocked beard. And I remember they lived in this old, used to be a Civil War hospital. That's what the house used to be. So anyway, they had this amazing set of staircase that went up to the upper levels and everything. And me and my brother used to play with the 12-inch scale G.I. Joe figures on those steps. We'd play on the railing. He had these grappling hooks. So we'd make them slide down the grappling hooks and everything. And like I said, and that was the only time as a kid I ever got to play with a 12-inch G.I. Joe. And that just, I will never forget it. Because I remember on the way every year, we come down like twice a year. And on the way down, me and my brother, we just constantly talk about cutting weight to get our hands on the G.I. Joes. And Greg, man, I hope I got to get back down there to Calhoun, and I'm guarantee you he still has them. He's one of them guys who just, he takes good care of stuff. And Jason, I just want to thank you once again for letting me take care of these. I'm actually looking at really cleaning and washing everything up and make sure getting these guys ready for a great display. And guys, and everybody loved this amazing, the detail and the articulation. But for all you 3 3/4-inch G.I. Joe fans, here's how it all started. Look at all, you want to talk about Black Series? This was the Black Series before Black Series ever thought about being the Black Series. Bottom line, the detail that these guys actually borrowed military weapons, military gear, measured everything, took photos, and took it to every little tiny detail to replicate this, to get that way. When you held one of these figures, the kid didn't have to imagine a whole lot to really get in that military zone and getting that, man, that's why the playtime was so amazing back in those days. It sucked you in, all the details sucked you in that world so quick. Boom, you was locked in, man. That's when the playtime got great. And today's toys rely so much on bright colors, so much on gimmicks. And it's like it's forced to have a movie tie-in and everything like that. There's this, I'm having, and I could be, and that's why I'm wanting to have this discussion, because I'm curious if I'm wrong or not. Because I think when I go down to where it's Target, Walmart, it don't matter. I really do feel that the toys that are on the shelf today, the kids that are buying them and seeing them on the shelves, when they get to be my age, they're not going to be thinking about these toys the way that I'm looking at them and thinking about them today. And obviously, if you guys didn't care about the toys that, formed your minds back in the kid, you guys wouldn't be on this channel listening and putting your post up right now. So, and I want to thank you guys for it. Yes, I need to get, yes, you definitely need to give me the history of your dad so I can put with it. Like I said, I got something cool in mind. I think you'll really like it. And he said, yeah, and Alpha said the Transformers toys looked awful. The third party, and see, all that stuff came from overseas. They just designed it, and we just borrowed it and slapped a different name on it and just used it. And so, I mean, it's, and the Dino Riders, that was something that wasn't, much in my line and everything. So, and stuff, it just, I don't know. It just, I think the things, there's a lot of thought put into this, a lot of creation, a lot of story writing and developing and stuff. And I think that's what helped the original Ninja Turtles go over so well. Same, you had two guys who just, for the love of comics and the love of the writing, created this. And, and it worked. Versus, and two, and you take Flash Gordon and the Tonto, even though those lines wasn't very big, even though they kind of flopped back in the day. But at the same time, if you sit there and you hold a Flash Gordon toy up right up against the Luke Skywalker, I'm here to tell you, as far as quality and storyline and stuff like that, this is just as good as that. But but a lot of people, well, Luke Skywalker's more famous. Well, in a way, yes, but at the same time, he was the Mac Daddy before Luke Skywalker was even thought of, and the guy who created Luke Skywalker fell in love with Flash Gordon, which helped give him the idea for Luke Skywalker. So, which one's the better one, Luke or Flash? So you see where we're at here, guys? A lot of people say Luke Skywalker, Luke Skywalker. That's what I grew up on. But the guy who created Luke Skywalker fell in love with Flash Gordon, which gave him the inspiration to make Luke Skywalker. So which one? So which one makes it the best? You see the dilemma here, guys? So it's part perception, part design. What came first? You know, and it's I don't know. It's tricky, and that's how deep you can go with this stuff. If you only stop, and I say this to artists right now all the time, because I meet a lot of artists out at the conventions and stuff, and I ask them, well, who inspires you? And they always talk about some other guy. Well, oh, this guy works for Marvel, or this guy's doing this, and it's always somebody who's doing something right now. And I'm just like, well, have you ever heard of Frazetta? Who? Buscema? Who? You know, Al Williamson? Who? And I'm like, man, you can't. Here's my thing, guys, and this goes for toys, art, and everything. And it even go for sports. If you want to be great at something, you got to study the greats before you, not who's hot, who's trending right now. And I think that's the sad thing that's going on nowadays. People only study and pay attention to what's hot and trending now versus going back in time and see what led up to what's hot and trending right now. And I think that is a detriment to any toy line, to any kind of artist, whether it be film art or toy art or comic book art. It don't matter. If you only are allowing yourself to be influenced what's going on immediately, you will never live up to your possible full potential. And I know that sounds pretty harsh, but this thought of mine has come back from many years studying art, studying other artists, and being around other great artists, not just people who like art. Now, I'm talking about being around a lot of other great artists. I talked to Ken Kelly a couple of years ago, who studied under Frazetta, and he just constantly talked about how Frazetta studied Michelangelo, Da Vinci, all those guys. There's a reason. Those were masters. And if you want to be able to create something masterful, you got to go back and study the masters. So when it comes to nostalgia on pulling all this together, do you only fall in love with the first thing that came to you as a child? Or can you possibly ever go back farther and appreciate something that maybe come before it? So do you get, see what anybody's saying here. See, you got to know your roots to know the history behind it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Alva. Very well put. See here. Duback, thank you for joining this evening. I'm not seen you in a while. So anyone ever had Clyde's Card Crushers play set? No, but I do know what you're talking about. That was a good gimmick little deal, but that was a very creative idea. Because trust me, I even though I'm not into gimmicks, but when you can mash and bash something, come on. I mean, just like the Battle Armor, He-Man, and Skeletor. Sorry, that was one of the few gimmicks I think that was just cool. That was a great, and that all came from the Crash car lines, and it's the same gimmick, just re-engineered to go into the chest body. Very creative and stuff. So guys, that's where I'm at. And like I said, I don't want to go too long, but I think, unfortunately, today I just don't see. Does anybody? Well, let me ask you this, guys, and I want somebody to answer this. Is there any toy line right now on the shelves that you guys see that people are going to be here on YouTube talking about how great it is, or how great it was, so to speak? That's what I'm curious. Because I'm sitting here thinking right now, and of course, there's been Star Wars out, but I can't think of anything. But I will have to say, I do think that the WWE mashing up with the Motu is, and I got to talk to Jason's partner Michael at Battlegrounds. I told him, I said, I remember when I was a kid, I had the AWA wrestling ring, and I remember distinctly Ric Flair wrestling He-Man, Skeletor and Larry Sabisco tagging up against He-Man and somebody, So I mean, I remember doing that, and it was just amazing. And I always wonder, why ain't somebody doing something that's together? And here it is, 40 years, almost 35, 40 years later, finally somebody's putting it together. And I think, as far as a marketing strategy, what brilliance. Because the toughest thing now is getting a new digital age kid to fall in love with something like this. They just don't get it. But they are into the wrestling because wrestling's huge on TV right now. With the John Cena fans, the Sting's pretty big and stuff like that. So taking that wrestling format, changing it up a little bit so the silhouette of the figures fits this mode, with the knowing that you're coming out with the new He-Man stuff up, and you're changing the packaging, slowly blending the two products together. So now that all these kids who love wrestling figures are going to fall right into loving He-Man, and they're not even going to understand why, but they'll, as soon as they see the new He-Man figures coming out, they're going to recognize that's the same toys they've been playing with for the last year. There'll be a connection there. And I have to say that is probably the best marketing strategy from a toy company I've seen in 20 years, easily 20 years. So let's see here. See, will there be Skylander? I just don't see how. I mean, I could be wrong, and I just don't see how the Skylander. I do see Mario Brothers, because I mean Mario Brothers started back when I was young, but it was a much different Mario Brothers back in those days. I mean, when I got introduced to Mario Brothers, it was at the big, huge arcade thing. So, and it took a while. I remember when Atari came out, and it's very, very crude format, so to speak. Not like what video games are today. And I don't play video games at all. So, but I do respect that they do got some amazing graphics nowadays and stuff like that. And I might one day get into some of that stuff when things calm down, but right now I don't live a calm life at all. So Pops, thank you, Alpha. I hate Pops too. There's just nothing about a Pop. I would love to do a video. If I'll tell you what, guys, if everybody that's watching this thing, if you all mail me a Pop, I will do a video on me taking a sledgehammer and smashing Pops. So I would love to do that. I think it'd be a great stress reliever for me. I think it'd be mildly entertaining to see Pop parts flying toward the camera. So worst case scenario, we all will have a great laugh. So it'd be like a Gallagher moment with the big old huge watermelon. So anybody who mails me one, we'll put it together. I'll make a big huge date and advertise it, and we'll have a Pop night. So I think honestly people just get them, and just, and then 2 or 3 people that I knew that collect them, they're just set on the shelf, and I just don't see what's there to admire for, even because the things that I got on my shelf, I don't sit and I don't sit here and play with the apes. Hell, they're fragile as hell. So, but they are admirable. I know what they stand for. I know what they did in the movies and stuff. Pops hadn't ever did anything. It's like a very dumb rendition of a character, of something that and I just don't get it. But at the same time, we're living in an age where art forms are very dumbed down just to sell a product, and people, and there's the extreme too. And that kind of goes with what we've been talking about, nostalgia. You got these Pop collectors that are fanatic Pop collectors, and there's nothing to it. No, it's not about there's no details. There's hardly any articulation. Then you got these Black Series nuts who have a cow if the eye color's wrong, or if one mo's not there that it's supposed to be there, or if the mo's a quarter of a millimeter off, is in, they're freaking out. Oh, you forgot the button underneath this jacket by the armpit on the back side. Really? So I don't, very extremes on both cases versus, hey, meet in the middle and just enjoy quality artwork, good quality representation of a character. Now that's why I love the simplicity of these. Even though it's not perfect, but a lot of creativity went in this, a lot of thought went into it. It's a great representation. So, see, what do you think of a Hot Toys figure? I do like Hot Toy. I don't own any. I probably would never make buy one. I just don't. I just think it's not that. I mean, I could afford one if I really wanted to, but at the same time, you got to remember, guys, I design statues. I mean, if you guys don't mind, I don't think I've ever showed you guys this, but here's why. Being a sculptor, I have a hard time going out and buying a hot toy. Here's one of the few things I kind of got famous for. I'm gonna try to pull this out for you guys, show you guys a little something here. You guys, anybody here an Indiana Jones fan? I'm sure everybody recognizes this movie shot. I made this a few years ago. So for me to go out and spend $250 to $300 on a hot toy versus me spending 50, 60 hours creating something with my name and stamp on it for the rest of my life, this is where I kind of hang my hat. So that's why. But do I like the Hot Toys? Do I respect what they're trying to do? Yes. And like I said, but I am speaking, my answer is coming from, for you guys, from an artistic person's point of view, not just a toy collector point of view. So Alpha, that question probably will be answered definitely different from someone else. And like I said, mine's pretty, that to me, that's just, as much as I would like a hot toy, the satisfaction I get creating something from nothing would outweigh more than versus just spending $300 and buying something that, yes, is a near perfect representation. Kind of like the Fison figures. A buddy of mine, Merrill Thomason, one of my art teachers, he has like 6 or 7 of those, and I think they're amazing. Oh my gosh, they're just so real and so lifelike. Am I going to spend $80 to $100 on one? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. That's just not me, as you know. But it's nothing that I have against it. But like I said, when you're making statues, my strive is to keep bettering versus buying someone else's hard work. Does that make any sense? Is that making? I hope that don't sound confusing or whatever. So, thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alpha. So that's where, and like I said, if I was just someone who just collected, I'd totally get, like, well, Michael from Battlegrounds, huge hot toy collector, huge. That's where his bulk of his collection money goes to is the hot toy stuff, because he loves that perfection look. So, and he respects high quality work. Hence the reason why he pays me to restore things. I just got done restoring a Robin for him and put it on a new card, the whole 9 yards. He respects the artistic quality on perfection, and that's why my relationship with him and Battlegrounds and everybody, it just works, because I'm an artist. I like to make and create and fix things, and they love to appreciate it and resell it. So it's just perfect there. So, and everything. So it just works out great for everybody. So, but guys, that's all I got tonight. I can probably ramble another 5 or 10 minutes, but like I said, I just want you guys to think about that, and just please keep chiming in. If you don't mind, please come back and put some comments on there. And please do me a favor, share this with your friends on your Facebook, Twitter, whatever you guys do. Whatever all the other crazy ones are. That's only two that I'm on, is those two and stuff like that. But guys, enjoyed. Thank you guys for popping on there. I hadn't seen a couple of you in a while. It's great seeing you guys. Love your all's comments. I hope this was some interest. I hope this got your wheels a turning and thinking about this kind of stuff and everything. Like I said, if you got any new topics you want me to cover, please shoot it my way. And like I said, love you guys. This Toy Smuggler Show wouldn't be nothing without you guys. And I greatly appreciate everything you guys do to support me. And guys, like I said, I'm going to try to come out with another one here before the weekend's up. I'll let you guys know what pops in my crazy head. All right. You guys have a great evening. Catch y'all later. I'm Kevin the Toy Smuggler.